Getting around Los Angeles, it can be a trial. Commuting is stressful and time-consuming, and time spent in traffic sometimes just feels wasted. But the LA County Metropolitan Transportation Agency, known to most of us as just Metro, is working on solutions from new rail lines to discount bus fares. Commuters' lives are looking up. And if the freeways don't stress you out, the airport might. There are few of us who haven't been caught in the traffic at LAX. But now relief may be on the way as an airport people mover system speeds toward completion. A new parking garage eases congestion, and a new rental car terminal readies for opening. We take a look at the changes taking off at LAX. And for those of us who take the freeways every day, it's hard to believe they weren't always part of Los Angeles. But the history of our freeways is a vital part of the history of the city. We talked to a man who has charted the path of the growth of LA's vital arteries as Fox 11 News In Depth starts right now. Hello, everyone. I'm Hal Eisner. One of the trickiest things about this city is getting around it. That's why many people rely on our public transit system. Here to talk to us about recent developments is Dave Sotero with Metro. And Dave, thanks for being with us. You and I have known each other for a very long time. We've seen all of the changes over the years since Mayor Tom Bradley started kicking things in gear with federal grants back in the 1980s. And there's been a lot of dramatic change, but perhaps nothing as dramatic as COVID-19 to sort of get in the way of a moving train. And that had a big impact on your agency, on ridership. And tell us a little bit about that.
Sure. When COVID-19 hit, we took a very deep ridership loss. We got down to like 364,000 boardings on the Metro system. And that was an all-time low for Metro. And over the last few months, we have seen ridership grow back. We now have 827,000 boardings on the Metro system. So we're really improving our ability to carry people around Los Angeles and making it easier for them to get around as well. But it was a very serious time for us. And we are now making changes to bring people back to the Metro system.
Well, it's certainly been a serious time for everybody. And even just trying to get out of the house has been a bit of a problem at times. But you know, we talk about buses. Some people came in on the back of the bus, didn't pay in the front of the bus. How did that happen?
Right. Well, what we did during the pandemic is we mandated rear door boardings on our bus system to create more social distancing for our riders, not to come in contact with our operators. And so that essentially provided riders with free fares during the pandemic. So we relaxed that requirement. But now we will be resuming fare collections on January 10th, and we want to give the public enough notice and also to let them know that we're offering discounts for low-income riders and other riders to be able to still enjoy financial benefits and board our system without being impacted severely by the resumption of fares.
Do you think there are people still leery to get on public transportation?
Well, I think what we've seen in the past few months is a steady growth of transit ridership. I think people are, more and more people are depending on the Metro system where they might have avoided it completely during the worst part of the pandemic. So as I mentioned, we have 827,000 riders just on our system from the worst days of the pandemic. So it is becoming a more useful option for people as we move forward.
You know, you talked a little bit about changes in fares and discounts and so forth. Any talk about freeing up fares for, say, students and those who go to college?
Well, yes, we just recently, our board approved a Fareless System Initiative pilot program for students, specifically K through 14. And most recently, the LA Unified School District announced its participation in the Fareless System Initiative. So participating schools and school districts like LAUSD will receive, the students will receive transit passes that will enable them to ride the Metro system completely free. And that's unique for Los Angeles and the country, in fact, because there may be other free student programs around the country, but ours is the only one that you can use the Metro system not just to go to school, but for any destination in LA County. So that's what makes it unique.
All right. Well, I know a little bit about art, and I know if you take blue and red, you get purple. But I didn't understand that when you take orange and green, you get G. So explain what the G line is, and gee whiz, this is going to be a big deal, right?
Yes, there is a G in the word orange, and that's how I remember it. Yeah, we have renamed our services and given them letter designations. But we are talking about the orange line, the line that opened in October of 2005. And that's been a very popular bus line in the San Fernando Valley. And it's been a tremendous success since day one. And we recently converted all of our G line, orange line buses to run on electric power. Now, this is the very first bus line on the entire metro system to run exclusively on electric power. So it's a test bed for what we're hoping to do throughout the metro bus system, which is to transition from our clean air compressed natural gas fleet to an all electric fleet by 2030.
Well, for any of us that have traveled on the East Coast, we know that some of the cities out there, like Boston, New York, they have public transportation that goes to the airport. And that's kind of what's in the works here now. I don't know why it's taken us so long to get there, but it's kind of finally happening to where, I guess, if you're in Sylmar, you can take your suitcase, get on a train, go to LAX, not have to worry about how much is it going to cost me to park in that rental lot for 5 days.
Absolutely. I mean, we've had a long-term plan to provide transit service to LAX for many years. It's part of our long-term planning, and our board has ensured that we have the funding in place through our tax measures to build a true connection with the metro system and Los Angeles Airport. And right now we're building a metro airport connector station at Aviation and 96th Street. And that's going to be a massive station that will allow people from throughout LA County to get on a metro train and go directly to that station and then easily transfer to a automatic people mover that will get them to the terminals at LAX.
Well, I got to tell you, it sounds like gee whiz. There's an awful lot going on with the G line and everything else. Keep us informed. We'd like to keep hearing about what's going on with Metro. Dave, thanks so much for being with us. Dave Sotero. Coming up next on Fox 11 News In Depth, our local airport is looking pretty different these days, and more changes are in store. We'll take a look at what's coming down the runway next on Fox 11 News In Depth. Be right back. Welcome back to Fox 11 News In Depth. I'm Hal Eisner. We just talked about some of the new metro routes, and one of the destinations for a new metro route is LAX. It's been a long wait to get public transportation to the airport, but it's on its way. And when you get to the airport, there are new transit options being built there, in addition to other improvements such as new parking structures and a rental car facility. And joining us to talk about all of this exciting stuff going on out there at LAX is Justin Herbacci, who is the CEO of Los Angeles World Airports. And thanks for joining us. It's pretty exciting out there, isn't it?
Oh, it's extremely exciting. We're in the middle of really transforming this airport into a world-class facility that this city deserves.
For anybody who's been out there, and I've certainly been out there, I mentioned earlier, it looks like a big erector kit. You've got all these things up there and cranes, and it's quite a sight.
It sure is. And for those who haven't been here since the pandemic, you won't recognize what you see when you get here. Literally, the projects have sprung out of the ground during the pandemic. We're about 75% completed with the guide rail for the automated people mover, which will go from about 2.25 miles to the east of here from the central terminal area all the way out to the new consolidated rental car facility that we're building just off of La Cienega there, just off the 405. And that will be the largest consolidated rental car facility in the world. Just to give you an idea of the size of that con racket, it's going to be the second largest cement structure in the United States, second only to the Pentagon.
That's extraordinary. I mean, just the thought of that is pretty extraordinary. But that guideway, that people mover, that's going to also connect with Metro, right?
Correct. We're very excited to finally be able to connect our People Mover train with the Metro so that people can finally take the Metro and public transportation all the way into the airport using rail. We're very excited about that, and it will really revolutionize the way that people access this airport. In addition, we've just opened earlier this week a new LAX economy parking facility where we will have an additional 4,300 parking spaces available for people starting right now. And a new parking system that we'll have there will allow people to pre-book their parking, so they know they'll have a parking space when they arrive. No more driving around the central terminal area looking for place to park.
You'll have electric plug-ins, you'll have other things, but it's $25 a day?
Yes, right now the drive-up rate is $25 a day, but if you pre-book, depending upon your length of stay and the time you're going to be there, you can get a significant discount through pre-booking. You just need to go to parking.flylax.com.
Now, there's another website you got that I'd like to put out there, and this is like in the era of Uber Eats and DoorDash and Grubhub. You got your own kind of delivery service, don't you?
Yes, absolutely. We call it Order Now, and it allows any guests coming to the airport to be able to order food online through their mobile device and pay for it, either before they even get to the airport or when they get to the airport. And then they just need to go to the concession stand and pick it up without having to wait in line or waiting to pay. We also have in our new West Gates terminal and soon in other terminals, we actually have the ability to have the food delivered to your gate. So it's just one part of a digital marketplace strategy that we're putting in place to try to give passengers control of their journey from their mobile device even before they leave their house.
I have to ask you, sometimes we see these mega makeovers when we have some big event coming to town, and we do have some big event coming to town. It's called the Olympics. Is that kind of why we're seeing all this stuff go in fast motion?
No, we want to get all of these improvements in place as fast as we can because we all know that we need new ways to access LAX. So, even independent of the Olympics, we need to put these new facilities in place. And we're very excited, though, to have them all in place when we welcome the world for the Olympics. And remember, before the Olympics, we have the Super Bowl this year, and we also have the World Cup coming in 2026. So we want to have all these new facilities available for these great events.
And some of the interiors, like we're looking at there, like at the Tom Bradley terminal and others, they're being really made over to look like little shopping malls.
Yes, so this you see here is our new West Gates at the Bradley terminal. This is a new addition to our international facility. It's a state-of-the-art facility where ample room, lots of hold room space, power in all of the seats. We have 5G coming very soon, and we have the best Wi-Fi system in there right now. So it's really state-of-the-art system. And we want to turn all of our new facilities into really great places where people have very comfortable and efficient travel journeys.
But I got to ask you, we only have 30 seconds left. We're not there yet. But Christmas and New Year's and all of that is on our doorstep. What do you want to tell people out there about holiday traffic at LAX?
To come early and pre-book your parking if you're going to park here at parking.flylax.com. Will make your trip here a lot easier. But make sure you give yourself plenty of time. We are expecting to have a lot more passengers than we've had throughout this pandemic, especially as international travel restrictions have been lifted. And we'll start to see now international travelers coming as well and adding to our numbers.
All right, Justin Urbachi, thank you so much for joining us. A lot of good information, a lot of exciting stuff out there, and can't wait to get on that People Mover. We'll see how that goes in a couple of years. All right, thank you so much. And coming up next on Fox 11 News in Depth, we look back at some of the stories and history of the freeways that make up our region. That's coming up next here on Fox 11 News in Depth. Be right back. Welcome back to Fox 11 News in Depth. I'm Hal Eisner, and here in Southern California, we have a love-hate relationship with our freeways. They allow us to get where we're going faster than taking surface streets. Well, sometimes. But there are a lot of things about our freeways we may not be aware of. Joining us right now is Paul Haddad. And Paul Haddad is the author of a new book. It's called Freeway Topia, How Freeway Shaped Los Angeles. Welcome, Paul. Good to see you. And that's quite a book. It's a history lesson we all ought to be reading about. You know, for those who have been in this town for a while, you know, we remember a lot of freeway-related stories. I remember the 10 freeway collapse back during the Northridge earthquake. I remember Carmageddon, when they tore down and built up the Mulholland Bridge over the 405 freeway. That was an interesting time as well. But you have a story of something I personally remember, the era of the Diamond Lane, and tell us a little bit about that.
Well, when you drive onto a freeway ramp, you probably see those diamond insignias, and that signifies an HOV lane, and you need at least 2 people for those lanes. But the first diamond lane was in 1976 on the Santa Monica Freeway, and it was minimum 3 people. And what Caltrans did at the time was it converted an existing lane, the fast lane, into a diamond lane. And this was Adriana Gianturco. She was the head of Caltrans. It wasn't her decision. She just inherited this policy that was years in the making. And the mistake that Caltrans made was they converted an existing lane into an HOV lane, into a diamond lane. And people were up in arms because 97% of the drivers were solo drivers. And so that left this desert, this virtual unused lane, diamond lane, whereas all the other lanes got more congested. And people went to court and they claimed it was the diamond lane was discriminatory against people driving by themselves, or even against two-seat cars, like Porsches and Corvettes. And eventually by August of 1976, a judge ruled that Caltrans needed to do away with the lane and convert it back to a regular lane, partly because Caltrans did not do an environmental impact report. And so the very idea of the diamond lane was to lessen pollution. They ended up inadvertently creating more of it because it created more congestion.
You know, you go back to, God, I think I can think back to the 50s. And I remember the TV shows, and you'd see these cloverleaf freeway exits and entrance, and you'd look at that and you'd go, that's Los Angeles. Because we really kind of created all these things, didn't we?
We did. The origin story of the cloverleafs and of the interchanges is the 4-level in downtown Los Angeles. And it quickly became emblematic of LA. You saw overheads of the 4-level and different interchanges on postcards, and you'd see those postcards at the airport, and it became iconography of Los Angeles. And you really can't tell the story of Los Angeles without telling the story of its freeways and its interchanges, which is why I wrote the book. The freeways became part of our history and our culture.
But if you go back to the beginning, it's the freeway to Pasadena. That was the first one, wasn't it? That was the first freeway.
Yes, correct. The Arroyo Seiko Parkway was the first. It really, a lot of people will look at that and think, well, it's truly not a modern freeway. It's got a lot of curves. It was a parkway because at the time, the City Beautiful movement was a permeating society, especially in Pasadena and Los Angeles, and it was beautified, the entire route. But the Hollywood Freeway was the first modern freeway. It was created after the Arroyo Seiko Parkway. And to this day, it's regarded as truly the hallmark of the modern freeway, even though the Arroyo Seiko Parkway was first.
Over time, we've seen certainly gang graffiti on freeways, but then also we've seen efforts to make them artsy, to sort of have a bit of a pageantry along the freeways.
Well, it's funny because the Arroyo Seiko Parkway did set the template for how we open freeways. There was the Rose Bowl beauty queen was there. Her name was Sally Stanton, and she was the one cutting the ribbon. And then what we saw with the Santa Monica Freeway and other freeways were beauty queens being trotted out to cut the ribbon with these oversized scissors. And sometimes the freeway policymakers would give these women honorifics. They'd give them sashes. It said Miss Simi Valley Freeway or Miss Freeway Link. Some of them were very clunky. You had Indians coming to transfer the land from Tongva Indian land to the state of California so that people could feel good about the fact that, look, we're actually trying to involve the native peoples into paving over their land that they once held. And so there was a lot of pomp and pageantry behind freeway openings. Right up into the last freeway in 1993, the Century Freeway, there was an Indian ceremony there with incense, and there were USC marching bands and a lot of pomp and circumstance. That's how we opened freeways. But I don't think if we open new freeways now, or certainly new segments, you don't see that anymore because that's become kind of passé.
We have about a minute left, and I have to ask you, I mean, if history is prologue, where are we going? I mean, we see toll lanes popping up. We hear a lot about double decking. That hasn't quite happened except down on the one going south, the harbor down. But you know,
Right.
you don't see a lot of this. And so where do you think we're going with our freeways here in Southern California? We just have a few seconds left.
Yeah, we went from the era where we glorified freeways to where many people resent them now because they don't necessarily improve the traffic situation. So I think you're going to see some congestion pricing. You're going to see HOT lanes, not HOV, but HOT, where you pay to be on the lanes. And you're certainly not going to see new freeways. If anything, you might see the decommissioning of some freeways and maybe even some capped parks going over the freeways like the Hollywood Freeway, which will enhance the community and provide more green belts over some of the trenched freeways like the Hollywood Freeway.
I'll tell you, as I drive home today, I'm going to have a little different perspective on the freeways that are taking me back there. Paul Haddad, thank you very much. Thanks for the history lesson. And we'll be back on Fox 11 News in Depth right after this break. Don't go away. And finally, if you haven't already, please check out my podcast. It's called What the Hell, and it's wherever you subscribe to podcasts. That's where you can get it, or just go to whatthehellpodcast.com. That's it for this week's Fox 11 News in Depth. Thanks for joining us. Have a great week. And one kind of transportation we haven't talked about is on the water. Before we go, take a look at the spectacular ocean adventure. Evan Brodsky sent us this video of humpback whales off the coast of Oxnard, apparently playing with his boat. This was shot via drone about 14 miles off the coast in the Santa Barbara Channel. Brodsky says the female humpback is one he's seen before named Scarlet. She's with her calf and mate. He says the female humpback has come up to his boat and interacted with it several times in the past. You can see the size of the whales when you realize the boat is 33 feet long. Bye-bye, everybody. Have a great week. See you next time.